Let's get started. A very warm welcome to our Blue Sofa session, which is dedicated to the important topic of sustainable temperature-controlled transport. To my immediate right, I'd like to extend a special welcome to Katharina Kermek. Welcome. And next to her is Björn Bode. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Hello.
Katharina, you come from the leading axle specialist, BPW. Can you briefly explain what you do there? What is BPW?
Yes, maybe just a quick word about myself. My name is Katharina Kermek, and at BPW I am responsible in product management for electrical and electronic products, including our recuperation axle, which I will be introducing to you in a bit more detail here in our talk today. Yes, BPW is actually known as a classic, maybe even somewhat old-fashioned axle manufacturer, but that's not who we are anymore because we now have a lot of innovative products in our portfolio. For example, I would like to mention our IC Plus, our telematics system, and of course, yes, our e-Power axle.
Perfect. Thank you, Katharina. Björn Krone, the leading trailer manufacturer in Europe. Briefly explain exactly what you do there and how you came to be here at Nova.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Björn Bode. I'm 38 years old, and I've been working at Fahrzeugwerk Krone for 11 years now. I'm responsible for sales in Germany, or the DACH region, as well as for the Benelux countries. But as a vehicle manufacturer, based, of course, in Amsterdam in Belgium, we are actually a manufacturer of semi-trailers, but also a service provider for our customers, both in digital products and everything related to trailers.
Perfect. Thank you, Björn. And I can proudly say that I have two partners here beside me. And behind us, there's also a Krone vehicle. Coming to our main topic, Björn, what challenges do you face as a vehicle manufacturer when it comes to temperature-controlled transports? What kind of experiences have you had?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you very much for the question. But the top priority, of course, is to maintain the cold chain. So, of course, during the entire transport time and everything related to the transport, everything concerning the required temperature, we have to maintain the cold chain. And that is the top priority, of course, both with our standards in the food industry as well as in the pharmaceutical sector. It is absolutely essential for us as manufacturers and for our customers that we address these exact requirements. And of course, we ask ourselves, how do we ensure that everything goes smoothly with this refrigerated transport, that I am fully digital, that I know exactly when the trailer will arrive, that I have cargo space monitoring, that I can constantly check the temperature so I can make sure everything is going according to plan.
That sounds like a lot of challenges. And one possible solution to tackle these challenges, Katharina, is the BPW generator axle. Would you like to tell us a bit about it?
Yes, with pleasure. Yes, as we've just heard, there are many challenges in temperature-controlled transport, especially when it comes to sustainability. And we have actually developed the answer to that, our recuperation axle, which essentially does nothing more than convert mechanical energy from braking into electrical energy. Exactly. And we use that energy, which is temporarily stored in a battery, and it can then also be used by the refrigeration unit, yes, as needed on demand. To go into a bit more detail about the system, we actually have several advantages here, especially compared to our competitors. We start recuperating at just 15 kilometers per hour. So that means we can make use of the braking process for a nice long time. We have a two-generator system, which also offers a lot of advantages. For example, if one should fail, the other would still continue to operate independently. Yes, and beyond that, we also have several other features, such as intelligent driving modes that can be configured. For example, this allows us to ensure that we always recuperate very intelligently, depending on the driving situation and, above all, according to the requirements of the refrigeration unit.
That sounds very exciting. And if I say now I'm a freight forwarder and I would like to have such a solution with a trailer from Krone, that's possible, right? Björn, how would that work? Can I order that from you?
Of course, you can order it brand new, but of course, you can also retrofit one thing or another. So that means, depending on the requirements, the loading capacity, or of course, the energy content, I can also retrofit these individual battery packs as needed. And of course, we are always available as a partner and look forward to every inquiry.
Yes, that's great because I think retrofitting and not needing something completely new is actually the most sustainable solution. Katharina, if I have one of your generator boxes, what exactly do I save when I run the refrigeration unit? Is that quantifiable?
That's actually a very interesting question, and of course everyone wants to know the answer. But it can't really be answered in a general way. You have to say it essentially depends on the driving situation, or more specifically the route. It depends on whether I'm operating in the fresh or frozen section, what the outside temperatures are, and then maybe also, yes, to some extent, what cooling settings have been chosen. That's why it can't be answered in a completely general way. But what we can definitely say is that such a system is especially worthwhile in delivery traffic or in urban areas with frequent starts and stops. We wouldn't necessarily recommend it entirely for long-haul operations, but even there, in South Africa with our subsidiary, we've achieved very, very positive results. But maybe at this point, just to mention a number, it is possible to save up to 4,000 liters of diesel fuel per year. And if you convert that into euros, we're talking about around 6,000 euros per year per vehicle that can be saved and calculated across an entire fleet. That's quite a lot.
That's really quite a large number. 6,000 euros is a lot, so it's definitely worth it. Björn, I have another question for you. It's about the insulation of the refrigerated vehicles. That's very sensitive material. If that gets damaged, we have a problem. What role do safety systems play in protecting the trailer, so to speak? Protect it?
Yes, we're really working on a number of topics there. Actually, this so-called, or the term bird's eye view, you might already know from the passenger car sector. That's something we're obviously dealing with, but as I mentioned earlier, we're also focusing on digitalization and, of course, sustainability. If I could just mention one more topic regarding CO2 reduction. Of course, in order to meet the relevant requirements, we're also driven by many new standards introduced by authorities and so on. So we naturally need to have the right solution here, both in terms of sustainability and CO2 reduction, and of course TCO, durability and so on, which are becoming more and more of a focus every day in order to keep costs manageable, especially for customers and freight forwarders. Yes.
That's a very important point, and I think TCO is always the critical factor for the fleet as well. We've now talked a lot about sustainability and temperature-controlled logistics. Now, let's broaden the scope a bit further. Katharina, what other innovative products do you have in the pipeline at BPW? What can you tease for us?
So if you want to experience it live, the best thing to do is to come to our booth in Hall 2. But for example, as I just mentioned earlier, we've brought our telematics system IC Plus with us. We've also brought AirSave with us. AirSave is a tire pressure refill system that also works very intelligently. Yes, maybe you should just come and see it live for yourself. I'd be delighted.
Yeah, awesome. We'll definitely come by again. And Krone has their booth here in our hall. What can people experience there?
Actually, Stefan, these so-called neighbors can see us all the way across the hall. There are also guests here in Hall 1. So, of course, I can invite everyone. You're all very welcome. Yes, for example, we're working on topics like bird view, especially the topic of external safety for drivers and other road users, as well as, of course, the cargo area and everything related to transport. But nonetheless, for example, when it comes to sensor-driven starting aids, especially when I'm reversing up to the ramp, these are all topics that already exist today and that we can, of course, provide as long as there's a demand for them.
Yes, exactly. Definitely exciting topics. To wrap up, I have one more open question. Let's say, looking ahead to 2030, what would be BPW's wish, so to speak, for the future of trailer transport, of long-distance transport?
So what we would really wish for is to have as many vehicles as possible equipped with e-power and for all of them to be operating sustainably. That would actually be our wish for the next 2 to 3 years.
That should be doable. And is there any request from the company? Krone? Yes?
Actually, I think we all are. I think we mentioned it at the beginning here. Before this meeting, when we exchanged a bit, I think the entire industry has been under really, really high pressure for 3 years now. And a bit of relief, a bit of an economic upturn, and of course that we manufacture vehicles where our customers can really benefit, but also, regardless of the technology, whether it's sustainable or technically advanced, that it can be operated economically and that it pays off. And that our freight forwarders and customers and that logistics as a whole become profitable again. That would be really nice at this point.
I think that's a great wish, a wonderful closing statement. I would like to sincerely thank you for allowing me to welcome two such strong partners here on the blue sofa at ZF. Thank you very much for that. I'd like to quickly look into the audience. Are there any questions from the audience? That is not the case. Then I would like to thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to taking a group photo together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks.